Hi everybody. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience working 70 to 80 hours a week. So in my old job, I used to work at Medtronic, and it was at a plant that made medical devices that went into people's brains. So brain implants, brain like catheters and things like that. So people would have, I guess, like a stroke or an aneurysm, and they would need something to go into their brain and release like small little coils. So those are the type of devices I would look at and inspect during my work hours. So I would basically just sit there in a clean room, and I would basically look at all these brain implants and make sure that they meet all of their requirements and that there weren't any defects, like no parts were broken, everything looks the way it's supposed to look. Even the packaging, I had to look at the box, make sure all the information was correct, things like that. So I was inspecting the product and making sure that everything was okay. And I was doing this 40 hours a week, and on top of that, I also had to work a lot of overtime. Now the thing is, the overtime, it wasn't mandatory. I could have decided to not work the overtime if I wanted to, but I wanted to work as much overtime as I could. And the reason for that is I had student loan debt. So I went to the University of California, San Diego, UCSD, and after I graduated, I was in debt. I think I had about $30,000 in student loan debt, and I wanted to pay that off as soon as possible. I didn't want to have a bunch of student loan debt that I had to always worry about and always had to be on my mind. I wanted to get that off of my mind, off my shoulders, and not have to worry about that anymore. So I wanted to get rid of my student loan debt as soon as possible. That's why I worked so many hours of overtime at my job. So I would just be sitting there. I would take a bunch of brain implants, inspect them, and do this for many, many hours. And a lot of the times I will be working 12-hour shifts, 12 hours a day. Now, 12 working hours doesn't mean 12 total hours at the job, because I still have to take into account the time that I take driving there, my lunch breaks, and the time that I took to drive to home also. So in total, I'm probably spending like close to 14 hours, on my job. Driving there, doing the work, taking my lunch breaks, going home. Probably 14 hours a day doing this. But in terms of work hours, I think I worked at least 70 hours, sometimes 80 hours, sometimes more than 80 hours. I think the most I've ever worked was probably 84 hours a week. And that week, I think I worked 14 hours one of those days. It was insane. I worked second shift, so I worked from I think about 2 p.m. to about past midnight sometimes. That was my schedule. I remember one of the years working there, it was New Year's Eve, and I was working there New Year's Eve, and we had the countdown during work. We counted down to the new year. This was several years ago, though. Since then, I've already reached my goal of paying off my student loan debt as soon as possible. By working many hours each week, I was able to get tons of overtime money and pay off my student loan debt like in 4 years. 4 years after I graduated, within that time, I paid off all of my $30,000 of debt because I worked so many hours. Now the thing is, there are downsides to doing this. Obviously, the upside is making tons of overtime money, right? But the downside is I lost a lot of my free time. All I did was work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep. It was just an endless cycle of just going to my job, working, going home, being exhausted, tired, and then just sleeping. And then when I wake up, just repeat the whole process again. It was pretty horrible in terms of having an actual personal life, because I had no free time to do anything. No free time to pursue hobbies or celebrate birthday parties with my friends, or even really go out and just go on a hike or just go to the mall and go shopping, do things. I had no free time to do any of that. Not only that, but the shift I worked second shift, so it pretty much took up the entire day. So while businesses were open, I couldn't really do anything because I worked throughout the entire day. So I gave up a lot of free time working 70 to 80 hours a week. And that also put a toll on my mental health as well, because I felt like I wasn't even a human being anymore. I felt like a robot, you know? I didn't feel like I had my own like identity or self-worth. All I was doing was just working all of the time, and that didn't make me feel good as a person. I felt like my life was kind of just so redundant and repetitive, and it just went in a circle day after day. That didn't really feel good. On top of that, my physical health deteriorated because sitting there and inspecting items under a microscope, that hurt my eyes, that hurt my hands, because I had to handle these small little microscopic devices for many, many hours a day. And on top of that, I didn't get much sleep because I was working so many hours a day. I had to sit there, my back hurt. It was just horrible in terms of physical pain, because I think I got arthritis or something. I don't know. My hands hurt a lot of times because I had to inspect so many product, and because I didn't get enough sleep and enough free time to do things and enough time to rest, like my stomach hurt a lot of the times. It was just really bad all around. So I gave up my free time, my personal time, and I gave up my mental health, and I gave up my physical health too. All because I wanted to pay off my student loans as quickly as possible. And while I did accomplish my goal of doing that, I had to give up a lot in order to do that. And it was very painful in a lot of ways. But thankfully, I don't work that many hours anymore. Now I only work 40 hours a week. But damn, back then, it was crazy. It was a crazy life. Like, very repetitive, very redundant, very robotic. It just didn't feel good in any way, other than making more money. Would I recommend that type of strategy to other people? I mean, that's the personal decision that you have to make on your own. Like, for me personally, I think that it's good if you want to accomplish any short-term goals, but I don't think it's viable long-term to be working that many hours a week, because sooner or later your body's gonna really, really hurt, and you're not gonna be in a good mental state as well, because like I said, I didn't even feel like I was a human being anymore. I felt like I was just doing just work for hours each day, and then going home, sleeping, and then waking up and doing the same thing over and over. It was just not good. But I did make a lot of money, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to make money to pay off my student loans. But would I do it again? At this point, there's no way I would do that again. I would never work 80 hours a week or more, even if it meant making more money, because to me now, I've already gone out of debt. So the only reason I would do that now would be to get money to invest more money into like Dogecoin or something, right? But I don't necessarily need to do that. And if I could avoid it, I would. So that's why I would not work 80 hours or more nowadays. So yeah, that's my story. That's my experience of working 80 hours a week or more. I hope you guys gained something from this, learned something from this, and I really appreciate you guys watching to just listen to my experience on these matters, you know. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. See you guys next time. Bye.